Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Buddy Fry, and let's queer up entertainment. This Coco, Peru mid-century modern scene was deleted, and here's why. In a twist that's left fans both delighted and dismayed, legendary drag icon Coco Peru has resurfaced digitally, at least after her scene was cut from the pilot of Hulu's Mid-Century Modern. Though Coco appeared on set and filmed her lines, her moment never made it to the screen. Actor Matt Bomer told the Los Angeles Times the cut scene was his favorite bit from that first episode, but fed into, quote, one joke that proved to be too racy, end of quote. The joke? A mishap involving spilt drinks and jizz. Coco herself explained, I worked for 2 weeks on the show, and because the show had to be shortened, my scenes were cut even before started filming. Perhaps jokes about jizz just aren't Hulu's thing. The show's creator Max Muchnick and David Conan, who also worked with Coco on Will and Grace, were equally heartbroken. Muchnick wrote, quote, sometimes we were forced to cut a character we love because of time constraints, end of quote. But in a surprising move, the deleted scene was released on Instagram. As Coco serves up a drink called a slow fin jizz, prompting Arthur to question, don't you mean a slow gin fizz? Coco fires back, sweetheart, take a look around. I meant what I said. Well, of course Coco had that line. Come on. Come on, that's a perfect line. But it is kind of sad, but it was smart to release it on Instagram because now we can all enjoy it and we can all giggle and laugh and have a good interest, and it sure brings in a new people to see the show if they haven't already seen it. It's an amazing little
It's a great show.
I just wish they'd quit comparing it to Golden Girls because it's not Golden Girls.
Okay, well, his name is Bunny, and the other one is Art. So B. Arthur is right there. The way the stage is
That's
set
just
up,
coincidental.
yeah, whatever. I mean, they come in from the left, they cut across to the kitchen, the background is the backyard. Other than the fact that they're in Palm Springs, it's the exact same set, and almost everything happens in the kitchen around the table.
Let it be its own show. Let it be its own show.
But it's brilliant. It's almost like watching Broadway. It's like watching Hot in Cleveland.
Yes.
Bringing back people you haven't seen in ages that are just classic characters
and
from
Linda
that we know.
Lavin, God bless
Linda
her.
Lavin, and they did a great job because no secret, Linda Lavin recently died. And one of the last episodes of the first season, they have to do a tribute to her because she's the mom that's playing a major role in this show. And they did a brilliant job of paying tribute to her. Because for a second I forgot she had died, and I was like, did she really die?
Yeah.
And looked it up. But it's a great show. It's great slapstick. It's great one-liners. I can picture all of us with our closest friends with these comebacks of, bitch, please.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
What's equally interesting, we talked earlier about aging gay men or anybody in the community as they age. We kind of evaporate. We kind of fade into the background and become invisible. And it's kind of nice that as funny as it is, and all the quick little one-liners and all the silliness of it all, it also kind of respectfully brings older gay gentlemen, gives them presence that it's a comedy, but we're not the joke. We're the ones making the joke. We're no longer the punchline.
Yeah.
And I kind of appreciate that a lot. And even like Linda Lavin, it's kind of fun to make fun of the stereotypic Jewish mom, but she was she had some good moments of, a lot of heart given out of there and a lot of love. So it's nice to see that.
I mean, the creators of the show, you compare it to Broadway. If you even just go back to watch like a Will and Grace episode, it doesn't play like a sitcom would play today at all. It does feel like a Broadway show. And I'm assuming, just as Will and Grace did, they're going to be experts at bringing in so many guest stars into this mix of people. There's a lot of, they're really good at bringing in, from anyone from Cher, on Will and Grace. I mean, there were so many
cameos.
Cameos on Will and Grace can go on and on and on. And so I'm sure they're going to be able
Cleveland,
to do
that was one of their big things, that they had all the great comedians and funny people from the past that suddenly reappeared and kind of brought to light. There's a lot of jokes in there that if you're a younger person, you would have no idea what they're referring to.
Right.
If they talk about Monica Lewinsky or whatever it might be, you're like, did they get that? Because it is so time sensitive or time appropriate for those of an older age that have, experienced things that younger people just don't know.
And you would have only seen Will and Grace in repeats, I assume, because you're
29.
Yes.
29.
Yes. Pointed out earlier.
Yes, but one of the things...
No one hits you, by the way, at the table, you know.
Not much.
One of the things I definitely have thought about when it came to the story, and first off, I will say for anybody who hasn't watched Mid-Century Modern, highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I watched it over the course of an entire weekend. I have no shame in saying that out loud. But in terms of crossing the line, that is not the raciest thing we have seen on TV lately.
No.
Has anybody been paying attention to White Lotus?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
far and away.
That is something, I watched that episode and I was like, okay, we definitely crossed a line there. This pretty tame compared to that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, no one kill me here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to say something about
promises.
Nathan Lane. All right, Nathan Lane's over-the-top character and everything that he does is what we love about Nathan Lane. I just felt he was a little too over the top, even for Nathan Lane in the series. Anybody feel that?
I have not watched the series yet, so I will take note of that. I was
Guys, no,
thinking
yes.
that it was sad that this show would have been I think a perfect format for a Leslie Jordan, who sadly passed away also. And the last show that Leslie Jordan was on, and I cannot think of the name of that show. It was
Call Me Cat.
Call Me Cat was. I mean, he was. So underrated on that show and didn't get, I think he should have got Emmy attention for his comic portrayal. He would have been a perfect character on a show like this.
And I'm sure it's a gamble for any of the writers. Then they choose older characters, especially if they're leads like a Betty White.
Yeah.
That they're in their 90s, and like any day you can get a call that say they're not back, and what do you do with the show? Especially if they're playing a lead role, Right. But it's such a delightful, funny, loving show, and I highly recommend it.
I think it's so cool that a show like that is on Hulu. Okay, and I think it's so wonderful that it's appealing to, like you said, a Will and Grace, to a cross-section of people that will watch it and see real gay characters, not pretending to be gay, but real gay, a little over the top, but real gay characters portraying some really funny stuff. And I'm really glad to finally see something like that.
Like Golden Girls, with heart and with commentary that is relevant to the times that we live in,
About real people.
and they're touching on subjects that, like Golden Girls, that touched on that is great to hear them talk about things that and bring them up about whatever it might be. He's got a great relationship with his sister, and just that whole like family thing. And there's one really good line in there where he says something about she said something about disappointment or whatever it was, Linda Lavin, and he said, so if I just started doing that 3, I could have just avoided this whole thing. Like, she left the room like, I'm out of here if you're going to talk about that. That's all I needed to know. I wish I knew that when I was 3. I could have gotten rid of her a long time ago. But
Yeah, but it's also important that the premise of the story is that these 3 gentlemen, even if the youngest one is in his 40s, which makes me laugh, they're talking about how gay men age without family.
Yeah.
And the concept of bringing families, or creating that family, and and especially in Palm Springs, one of the most gay-friendly communities in the country, with one of the few LGBTQ retirement communities that I know of.
Right.
So I think it's touching on a lot of things, even if it is there's a few characteristic moments where Matt's a little too dumb to be taken serious, but
Betty White.
Sorry. Yeah, but it is what it is, and it's a lot. It's nice to have that representation that's closer to reality than ever before.
That's great. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by